3 Lives 3 Worlds, 10 Miles of Peach Blossoms. By Tanki Gongzi. Translated by Hamster428. Chapter 1. It hasn't been 3 years and the eldest daughter of Ruo Shui Shenjun already gave birth to another son for Donghai Shuahun. Both the Ruo Shui and Donghai families are extremely elated. The happy Donghai Shuahun sends out invitations throughout the entire land for a feast. Even my parents all the way out in Fox Cave has received one. My parents have gone on a cloud stroll for many hundred years. Third brother has been married and is now living in a different land. Fourth brother has gone to the West Mountains to seek his lost riding bird called Bafang. I'm the only one at home here at the Fox Cave. I hold the invitation in my hand and am lost in thought for a while. I recall that when my mother had difficulty giving birth to me, they might have asked for Donghai Shuahun's great-grandmother's assistance as a delivery nurse. So I end up taking a Knight Shining Pearl and prepare myself for a trip to the East Sea. I myself am not very good with directions, so before leaving, I come over to the Lost Valley next door and asked old Migu for a small branch. The Migu tree has natural pitch black wood. On its body are several 5-color blossoms. But besides shining in the dark, these flowers are absolutely useless otherwise. On the other hand, I love these branches of the Migu tree. With them, you'll never be lost. Old Migu was actually a tree which has grown since the beginning of time on Mount Zayao in the Southland. When my mother was pregnant with fourth brother and left home in a fight with my father, she got lost and came to Mount Zayao. When my father finally found her, he was afraid she'd be lost the next time, so he brought the only tree from Mount Zayao home to King Kaiu, planting it right in front of the house. King Kaiu is an immortal land. The tree takes in good energy from the sun and moon along with the 4 seasons and was able to turn into human form after 3,000 years. After another 3,000 years, it has become a land fairy. My father gifted him some bamboo sticks and he used those sticks along with straws to make a 3-section house next to the Fox Cave, thus becoming our neighbor. Since he's a fairy in King Kaiu Kingdom, like other smaller fairies, he also calls my father Lord. Old Migu isn't that old if I think about it. I was born 2,000 years after he became human. A babe with rosy lips and pearly teeth, sharp eyebrows, and starry eyes. Half of the female fairies in King Kaiu came to ask my mother to be a matchmaker for him, but none of them was successful. Old Migu seems like a womanizer at first, but he's very well-mannered in reality. Every time he sees me, he would bow and respectfully call me Lady, much to my satisfaction. This time when old Migu gives me the branch, he seems somewhat upset, as if he doesn't really want to. I don't bother giving much thought into it. Soon after I call for a clump of cloud and fly straight toward the East Sea. East of the East Sea is Shili Tao Hua, 10 miles of peach blossoms. Third brother heard that I was going to Donghai for the feast, so he asked me to stop by Jian's residence and ask for him 2 bottles of peach wine. Jian is the owner of Shili Tao Hua. He's an ancient phoenix, but the old man himself doesn't know how old he is. My mother said Jian is the only phoenix left that's as old as time. He was raised personally by the first immortal, so his rank is even higher than Tianjun currently. When I was born, there was no longer a trace of the first immortal's legend. When my parents took me to see Jian, he brushed down his beard and said to my father, "Is this the young lady your wife has just given birth for you?" "Too little," too little. The ancient relationship between Jian and King Kaihu Kingdom is mainly due to my mother. According to legends, Jian has once asked for my mother's hand in marriage some 100 million of years ago. Wedding gifts had also been delivered to the door. But my mother only loved the other hard-headed guy, which is my father, so she stubbornly turned the offer down. Jian and my father ended up engaging in a great battle. They somehow became good friends after they were done fighting. The next year my father brought an 8 carriers palanquin to bring my mother to King Kaihu. Jian was invited as the officiator. According to our ties, my brothers and I all have to call Jian uncle. But even now that old and embarrassing man still insists he is very young. If anyone calls him elder in front of his face, he will blacklist that person forever. So all of us are afraid and call him by his name like our parents do. Jian is a great winemaker, but he himself dislikes loud feasts and parties. The mysterious immortal who left the 3 realms without caring about the mortal world. Nature is elegant, his taste is even more refined compared to nature is the way he describes himself. Whenever other fairies ask him out for drinks, he only smiles evasively. Everyone is always happy to see him, this seemingly honorable deity. They think this leisure immortal can only be respected, not to be friended. So those who wanted to get close all dropped the idea eventually. Jian likes to have quiet peace, so from then on he stays in his peach orchards and busy himself with planting trees. When I arrive to the East Sea, I estimate that I still have 1.5 days until the feast starts. Remembering my 3rd brother's request, I go around to Jian's residence and ask for a jug of peach wine. I'll divide them into 2 bottles for 3rd brother, 1 bottle to gift Donghai Shuahun along with the night shining pearl, and the rest I will bury in front of Fox Cave to save for later. I come right when the peach blossoms are blooming. There are blossoms for all 10 miles. The entire area is covered in a vibrant rosy color. I follow along the familiar path deep into the peach orchard. As I shift my eyes, I see Jian eating a peach on a clear patch of land. Another shift of my eyes and the peach is gone, leaving on the pit. Jian laughs and waves me over. Aren't you the little brat from the Bai family? You're getting prettier by the day. Come over here. He pats on the spot next to him and says, "Come sit here and let me take a better look at you." I quickly think about all the fairies there are in this world, and there's not one that is high-ranked enough to call me a little brat. That term makes me feel young, so I become quite happy. I cooperatively sit down and Jian pulls my sleeve to wipe his hands. I'm in the middle of thinking how to ask for his wine when Jian laughs and says, "You've been in King Kaihu for many thousand years already. It's good that you are taking this trip now." I become surprised, and can't figure out what he means, so I smile and reply, "The peach blossoms here are also very pretty." He laughs even more heartily. Bahai Shuahun brought his wife here some days ago to view the peach blossoms. It was the first time I saw his little bride, and I can say she's quite lovely. I can't get myself to laugh this time. Bahai Shuahun's little bride is called Shaoxin. I named her myself. I don't know how long it's been. I was taking a trip with 4th brother out to the Dongtinghu, and we discovered a small dying cobra within the tall grasses. I pitied it, so I asked 4th brother to bring it back to King Kaihu. That small cobra has turned into an immortal, so although she was laying with her face down, she could still turn into her human form. That was Shaoxin. Sheoxin stayed at King Kaihu to heal her body for 2 years. After she recovered, she asked to stay to repay my help. At that time my parents were rarely at home. Fox Cave was left under fourth brother's care, so he let her become a cleaning maid. There wasn't a maid before and all cleaning duties were mine. I was happy with my newfound free time and didn't bother coming home. I house hopped between big brothers, second brothers, third brothers, and Jian's homes. Everything went by peacefully like that for 200 years when one day my parents came back to King Kaihu and told me about my engagement. My betrothed was Bahai Shuahun Zhang Pai. At that time Zhang Pai was Tianjun's most beloved second son. He was still staying on Zhukongtian, not yet banished to the North Sea. Tianjun announced our engagement to all 4 seas and 8 lands. There was not one person who didn't know about it. Friends and acquaintances congratulated me every time they come by. Fourth brother and I found it so bothersome, we packed up and fled to Jian's peach orchards. This hiding trip ended up causing trouble. When we got full from eating peaches and came back to King Kaihu, Sheoxin was no longer there. There was only an retracting letter from Zhang Pai simply stating he and Sheoxin developed feelings and he can't marry anyone else, that he was truly sorry, etc. etc. I've never thought it was that big of a deal. Firstly, I've never met Zhang Pai, let alone having feelings for him. Secondly, Sheoxin hadn't stayed that long with me. Although there was some connection, it wasn't that deep. Thirdly, even animals have the rights to choose their mates. All lives are created equal, so we shouldn't take that right away from Zhang Pai either. But it ended up into a big fuss in front of Tianjun. And it wasn't even I who made the fuss. To be precise, it was Zhang Pai himself who took Sheoxin and knelt in front of Tianjun and his officials to ask for a title for Sheoxin. This story spreaded all over the 8 lands in half a day. Everyone said, the Bai family's daughter in King Kaihu is truly pitiful. What was once a good match is now in abandonment after less than 3 years of engagement. How will she marry after this? There were also some who said, I don't know how pretty the little cobra is, but how can she compare to the heavenly beautiful 9-tailed white fox? That was when my parents, brothers, and Jian found out I've been jilted. Jian immediately followed my parents straight to Zhukongtian and asked for justice from Tianjun. I'm not sure myself the details of what went on. I only know Zhang Pai lost Tianjun's favor and was quickly made into Bahai Shuahun, which was synonymous of being banished to the North Sea. His marriage to Sheoxin was also not acknowledged. My father has only ever said one thing about this, damn jerk, that's already very convenient for him. Jian was even more thick-faced. He was angry, but he also wanted to see more fun. Why waste his future because of a woman? I was young at the time and I didn't understand much. I only felt the 2 main stars Zhang Ji and Sheoxin didn't have anything to do with me and I didn't want to give myself unnecessary sorrow. Afterward Tianjun sent down a decree during court. It basically stated even though a crown prince hasn't been decided yet, but Bai Qian of the Bai family from King Kaihu is fated to be the daughter-in-law of the heaven lineage. Her future is most definitely a queen. No matter how it's said, whoever becomes the next Tianjun will have to marry Bai Qian of the Bai family in King Kaihu. This was deemed as a royal favor, even if it was a teeny bit too big. Tianjun's sons wanted to avoid leaving the impression that they are fighting over my affections, and thus the throne, so they never looked at me. Of course I never thought of knowing them either. Everyone else was afraid of offending both of our families, so from then on I completely didn't socialize with anyone. 300 years ago Tianjun crowned Yehua crown prince next in line for the throne. I have to say I didn't know anything about this Yehua person. After Zhang Pai was banished, Tianjun was unhappy with the rest of his ordinary sons. Fortunately 3 years later, his eldest son Yang Qian, or Yang Chai, gave him a bright grandson. It was then that Tianjun became pleased again. This grandson is named Yehua. According to Tianjun's decree in the past, Lord Yehua and I will definitely have to marry each other. It was said that Yehua's household already has a mistress named Sujin who is highly favored and has given him a son. So then course he wouldn't have the heart to remind anyone about this marriage of ours. As for me, even though I wasn't attached to anyone, I was almost 100,000 years older than he was. Just from generation ranking, he would have to call me Gugu, auntie/lady. From age difference, he'd have to call him an ancestor. So obviously I had no interest in pushing this match forward either. Our stalemate has carelessly become a joke to all 4 seas and 8 lands. Bahai Shuahun, Water Lord of the North Sea, is the leading culprit who caused all of this. I am starting to not only feel tired but very tired, and so I am quite annoyed at this troublemaker. I don't think Jian mentioned Bahai this time to peeve me but rather to plan something, so I become interested and listen carefully. His smile becomes even more satisfied. It's only been a few thousand years and already she's given him 3 children. This current one in her womb is supposed to be the 4th. One can tell she's got bearing hips. His little wifey craves for only peaches but they're not in season yet. Except from my place, nowhere else in heaven and earth has them. Bahai at last came here. He almost had to beg so I couldn't turn him away. I keep my opinion to myself and play with the seam of my dress. I'm also bothered by this fair gesture of his. He gives out a laugh. Look at your face. It's completely white. Weren't they childless peaches? I look up quickly and in the process hit straight into his forehead. He ignores it and teases me. Look, look. You soften right away when I said I gave the lovebirds some childless peaches. To tell the truth, these peaches are only going to keep them childless for several thousand years. They won't harm their good fortunes, nor will they harm my karma. Honestly, whether or not Bahai has a 5th child has nothing to do with me. The childless peaches also won't kill anyone. If he didn't retract our promise that year, there wouldn't be so many headaches today. I'm actually in agreement with Jian's lesson for him this time. But if Jian thinks I'm soft-hearted, I won't say anything in defense. He then comforts me by saying the entire heaven lineage are full of bastards. Generation after generation all their descendants are a bunch of cowards. After cursing Tianjun, we banter some more. We haven't seen each other in so long and I think he's bored out of his mind. He tells me every tiny inconsequential story. I did remember about the peach wine at first, but after 1 or 2 sentences of nonsense, I end up forgetting everything. When the sky darkens, Jian finally mentions to me, Xiao San, little third, asked me for 2 bottles of wine. I buried them by the pear tree next to the Baiao pond behind the mountain. Dig them up tonight when you go over there to sleep. You can only take 2. Don't spill any and don't steal any. I purse my lip. How cheap. He turns and softly smooths over my hair. You really can't drink that wine. If you want some, come to my wine cellar in the morning. I'll give you however much you can take. I bow in thanks. But in my mind, I plan to drink from those bottles and take his entire cellar home as well. End of chapter 1.